Hi, this is Liz Holson with the USPA-Polo Development LLC, and I'm here to talk to you about a very important issue in polo and involves equine welfare, that is body condition scoring. The United States Polo Association has adopted the Henneke Body Condition Score scale to implement in all of our tournaments, polo schools, and other equine activities. We believe it's very important to body condition score because it helps evaluate our horses' response to their nutrition and exercise program. In addition, it gives us a great way to evaluate how those programs are coming into play with what we're doing, and it lets us know how healthy our horse is. So what is body condition scoring? BCS is a scale of 1 emaciated to 9 obese with a 4 to 6 range in the center, which is the ideal range for any equine athlete and performance sport horse. Why do we want our horses to stay within this range? Within the 4 to 6 range, these horses have available fat stores that they can break down easily to convert into energy that we need them to access to play polo. If you go outside these ranges and have too much fat or too little fat, your horse is risking detrimental long-term damage to their health and wellness. When your horse falls below the 4 or 3 or even a 2, those horses are breaking down their muscles to access proteins to convert to energy to use when they play polo. What happens over time? When they have so few muscles left to break down, they can start breaking down the heart muscle and other critical muscles that they need to perform and live on a daily basis. When your horse is above a 6, those horses have a very hard time regulating their internal temperature because of all the extra fat. And internal temperature is a critical factor that limits performance in any highly athletic individual. Therefore, those horses will reach that critical limiting temperature more quickly, and they'll have a harder time performing over long periods of time. Now, let's go learn how to do some hands-on body condition scoring. Now that we've talked about what body condition scoring is and why we body condition score, we're going to do a hands-on touching and feeling of the 6 points we need to look at and address and really put our hands on to feel the horse's true body condition score. It's important to actually get your hands on the horse and be able to feel these points because it's very difficult to judge a horse's true body condition score when looking across a field or a pasture, and it's very difficult to figure out body condition scoring from a photograph. So we're going to start with a 5 here, and we're going to start up here at the head. And I also want to point out that when we're body condition scoring, you have to get in the kick zone in certain parts. So you need to start at the head and work your way back and keep your hands on the horse at all times so your horse can feel where you are and really be aware of what's going on with your horse. So we're going to start, and we're going to start by looking at the horse's neck as we body condition score. And what we're looking for and feeling for are fat deposits, or lack thereof, on these key points. So starting with the neck, we've got Ruby here, and we have a nice ample amount of fat deposits, not too much, not too little. Moving to the shoulder, you can feel that there are some fat deposits starting to build up, but we don't have a ton. Got a nice little pad right there. Then up to the withers, once again, a solid pad here on the withers. And moving back to the ribs, we're gonna go and we're gonna feel our fingers along, and they're just gonna go bump, 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 and you're gonna have to press down just a tiny little bit to feel for them. You can see Ruby's getting a little sensitive here. So this is the part where we're gonna have to be very conscientious of our safety and putting ourselves in the kick zone. Next, we're gonna move up to the tail head, and here, step up. At the tail head, we're hoping not to feel the spine here. And as we're running our fingers along, we've got a nice padding here. And as we move back to the tail head, once again, we have a good pad there as well, and we can just sink our fingers down into it. The things we're looking for when we're here, looking at the tail head and the loin especially, is the transition from having a peak where you can either see and feel the spine to flat like we have here with Ruby. And then once we go above a 5 to a 6, 7 and higher, you're going to have a crest, and the butt is going to have fat deposits on either side of the spine. Now that we've looked at Ruby's 6 points, we can easily determine that she is a solid 5. And you can also tell that if you might have a long trailer ride or lose 100 pounds, you might see this horse at a 4. Here we have a 4, and you can see the most visible differences in 3 points between the 4 and the 5. The biggest difference you're going to see is the visibility of the ribs. The ribs are going to be visible to the naked eye just lightly. You're not going to be having to push very hard for that bump, bump, bump. You're going to just run your fingers along the surface to find it. And you can see that the neck, the shoulders, and the withers are 3 very distinctive and very defined parts of the body here. There's less fat store along the shoulder. And finally, our last difference is going to be the loin and the tail head. You can see the loin is slightly more peaked with the spine being visible to the naked eye, only with a light layer of fat covering it. And then the tail head, you can see the tail head above the level of the butt. For those various reasons, this horse is going to be placed at a body condition score of 4. All right, so here we have another horse, and we also can see the big changes from the 4 to the 3 here. This horse, is, once again, you're going to be looking at some of these same points. So the neck, shoulder, wither blend on this horse is going to be much more defined than with the 4 that we just saw. So with the fat deposits, you're really not finding many on this horse, on the neck and the shoulder. I mean, we're not getting much here. And the withers. If we look at the withers, we have no fat pads on either side of the withers. Next, moving back, the ribs. So this bump, bump, bump is much more extreme than with the 4. Some people would like to equate it to holding your hand like a fist and looking at your knuckles. When we move out back to the loin, we have a very pronounced peak up here, very visible to the naked eye. That spine is going to be right there, and you can kind of feel some individual vertebrae. Careful there, Mare. And when we move back to the tail head is very pronounced, and we can really see that visibly. So the combination of those 6 points, once again, we're going to score this horse in the 3 range. Now, if we're going to take a look at the high end of the spectrum, this horse is a body condition score of 6, which is high, but still within the ideal range for a polo pony. So this horse, you're going to notice, has some additional fat padding and just a bump up from the 5 that we looked at earlier. So once again, starting with the neck, you're going to see some extra fat stores along the neck, and seems to be a little bit sore, so we're going to be gentle. And then when we look at the shoulder, we've got some extra fat padding along the shoulder, so there are some significant stores there. Once again, a bump up from the 5. The withers, you'll feel a nice spongy feeling along the withers there. And then moving along to the ribs, you're going to have to really press to feel that bump, bump, bump as you run your fingers across the ribs. Moving to the loin, at this point, we're moving from that flat that we saw with a 5 to a slight crest. So we're going to have just a little bit more crest to that area of the loin. So you're going to have to push down into the spine almost. And then the tail head at the very back, you're going to have a little bit of spongy and a visible fat pad as you move the tail around. So when looking at those 6 points, you're going to body condition score this mare at a BCS of 6. Here we have a 7, and you can see that this horse is definitely the step up from the 6, and this horse is outside of our ideal range for a playing polo pony. This horse is going to be where you want to start the season for some horses, or where you want your horse to look like when it's turned out. So this horse, we're going to look at our same 6 points again, starting with our neck. Significantly more fat stores along our neck, and our shoulders are going to have much more substantial fat pads along them. You can really see that fat and that sponginess of that shoulder pad. The withers have that same spongy feeling we experienced with the 6, only it's going to be more significant. Moving then to the ribs, we are really pushing down to find those ribs in there. You are going to really struggle to find that bump, bump, bump that you had with the 4, with the 5, and you had a little bit less with the 6. Then moving to the loin. So that loin, you're going to see that more significant crest, those fat pads on either side of the spine. To feel those individual vertebrae of the spine is no longer a possibility. And then moving back to our tail head, we're going to have a very significant fat store on either side of it. So with all those places, we're feeling for that spongy feeling that we're going to see with a 6, 7, and then as we go higher, we're going to see that. So playing this horse in tournament polo is probably not going to be your best option, because this horse is going to struggle with regulating its internal temperature. To bring this horse back into work, you would want to think about doing a lot of long, slow distance work and really getting your horse back into the swing of things. Now that we know how to body condition score our polo ponies, what do we need to do when we find our horse is too light, below a 4, or too heavy, above a 6? When our horse is too light, the first thing we want to do is pull our horse out of our exercise program and reevaluate our nutritional program. So you're going to be looking at the caloric input and the caloric output and how they balance with your polo pony. One of the first things to look at is whether or not our horse's feed or hay has changed recently. You might want to think about whether or not your hay might be coming from another person, another part of the country, or if it hasn't, you might want to send your hay off to get tested, and you should contact your local ag department for more information on that. Other things to look at include checking their teeth. Have their teeth been done recently? getting with your vet to see if there's an underlying medical issue, and also making sure that your deworming program is on schedule with whatever you and your vet have worked on as a basic schedule. If we go to the other side of the spectrum and we look at the horses that are too heavy, some of the things we need to think about are how we brought that horse back into work. Did they come back from the season too heavy and we just started playing them without doing our long, slow distance work? Or has this weight change been very sudden? And is there something going on with our feeding program and what we're putting into our horse? For more information on nutrition and exercise for the polo pony, check out Dr. Shelley Onderdonk's presentation on PoloSkilz, or you can visit the CPI manual for more information. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video to learn about body condition scoring to help your equine partner perform better in the sport of polo. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always reach out to the Equine Welfare Hotline, or you can check out the CPI manual or any other PoloSkilz resource for more information. This has been Liz Holson with the USPA-Polo Development LLC.